What is up, everybody? It's ZXRyuu, and today we're going to be talking about the Taito Type X arcade machine hardware. We're going to go over some specifications, do a little bit of teardown, and ultimately show how to set it up in an arcade machine type setup. So anyway, I hope you're ready for that, and let's go! Before we look at the Type X, I wanted to put this very brief, not at all expansive history here. The Type X is an arcade machine component that was created by the company Taito in Japan. Taito was founded in 1953, became a subsidiary of Kyocera in 1986, and was finally bought by Square Enix in 2005, where it, as of this video, resides as a wholly owned subsidiary. So now Square Enix owns Taito as well. Who knew? The design of the Taito Type X is essentially that of a personal computer. On the front of the machine we have an exhaust fan which will usually run at a constant speed. On the back of the unit we have the power supply which can run either 115 or 220 volts. There's quite a few input-output ports on this machine. There are two PS2 style connections for a keyboard and mouse, one parallel port, one serial port, onboard VGA graphics, 4 USB ports which are USB 1.1 and 2.0 compatible, onboard Ethernet running 10/100 base TX, an AC97 onboard 6-channel audio codec which includes microphone and line-in jacks for stereo input and a line-out jack for stereo output. The graphics card is an ATI Radeon 9600 SE which includes VGA, S-Video, and DVI connections. Finally, we have the JAMA board, which includes a USB port for handling all of the input and output to the game attached to the system. Now we're going to tear down the Type X a little bit. Most games for the Type X run on hard drives. To swap out games, arcade operators will remove these top 4 screws, lift the drive latch, detach the IDE data and power connections from the drive, remove it, swap in a different game, reconnect all of the cables, and replace the 4 screws. Now let's open up the system a little further. In order to open it up, we need to remove a total of 7 screws, 2 at the top of the case, 1 at the bottom, 2 on the back, as well as 1 on each side. With the removal of the 7 screws, the top case simply slides back and lifts off. Now we can get a great look inside of the Type X. First we have the motherboard underneath with an Intel 865G chipset, the power supply on the left, an Intel Celeron processor running 2.5 GHz, one memory module giving it 256 MB of DDR266 RAM, an ATI Radeon 9600 SE graphics card in the first PCI slot like I said before, the JAMA board, and again the exhaust fan. In order to continue our teardown, we have to remove this center bar. There are a total of 3 screws that we need to remove. There are 2 on the top and 1 on the bottom. After removing the 3 screws, the center bar lifts up and out of the chassis. The power supply can be removed by first removing this cable, that cable, these 3 screws on the back, and these 2 screws on the side. The CPU fan can be taken out by removing these 4 screws. The CPU heatsink can be taken out by removing these 2 screws. Memory can be expanded by adding another DIMM, or it can be changed or removed by pressing down on the 2 white tabs on either side of the memory module. The graphics card can be removed by taking out this screw and then pressing down on this white tab. The JAMA board can be removed by taking out this screw, disconnecting this small cable, this bigger black cable, and finally this black cable underneath the exhaust fan. You will want to remove the exhaust fan first before removing the JAMA board. So that pretty much does it for a basic overview and teardown of the Type X, so let's put it all back together and set up the arcade machine. This is an I/O board from Capcom. This allows me to connect the Taito Type X to a SuperGun as well as a monitor. On the back it has stereo RCA connections, a pinout for buttons 5 through 8 if your game requires them, a USB Type B port, a VGA connection, as well as an extra power connection. On the front it has outputs for JAMA, the extra buttons, and audio. This is it. This is my arcade machine with everything connected. I have my Type X, my Capcom I/O board, as well as my ADCAP MK30 SuperGun. This is how it's all hooked up. The Type X has audio from the 3.5mm stereo running to the Capcom I/O RCA input. USB Type A is running from the JAMA board to the USB Type B connection on the Capcom I/O. Video is connected via a DVI to VGA converter. This allows for 480p video to run to my SuperGun and ultimately to my display. This is my SuperGun. As for connections, the JAMA harness is connected to the back of the SuperGun and then connected to the Capcom I/O. I have component video running out of the SuperGun to my display. Anytime you want to run a game on the Type X, you will need a security key in the form of a USB device. These have to match the game you're playing, so you will need to make sure that you get the hard drive and the security key for the game you're buying. If it's missing the key, you won't be able to run your game. Everything's all set up now, so let's go ahead and turn the system on. First we power up the SuperGun and set the voltage as close to 5 volts as possible. It does fluctuate a little on this SuperGun as the equipment heats up and cools down. After plugging in the Type X, the fan will run at a constant speed for the most part. The security key will pulse when you first start up the Type X, but at a certain point during loading, it will start flashing rapidly along with the JAMA board. This flashing is verifying that the correct key is installed and it is safe to start up the game. The Type X takes about 1 to 2 minutes to boot up the BIOS and initial commands, and after that you will see a Windows XP embedded window show up. At this point everything is getting set up to run the Taito Type X software, which then loads up the installed game automatically. Help, my Type X froze, what do I do? If the Type X freezes, you can press the button next to the JAMA connection on the back and that will instantly restart the Type X. Is there any way to turn off this system safely? When you're done using the Type X, there's not really a good way to turn it off aside from unplugging it. I'm getting a really strange error message on my Type X at boot time. What should I do? If you get an error, what you should do is just get a small USB keyboard, plug it into one of the ports, and press F1 to skip past the error. Alright everybody, well that's pretty much an overview of the Taito Type X arcade machine hardware. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're not already subscribed, that'd be awesome if you would. I'm still trying to get 20 subscribers by the end of the year, and I'm also still trying to do a farther goal of 100 subscribers. You can follow me on Twitter at RevelationAge as well. And be sure to like this video and comment as always, and thank you guys for being awesome. We'll see you later. Bye!